When you first open up the third chapter of the book of Numbers, it can look, well, let's be honest, kind of dry. It's a lot of names, a lot of counting, but what if I told you it's actually a super detailed blueprint for building a community's entire spiritual infrastructure? Today, we're going to unpack that blueprint. We're going to turn this ancient census into a pretty fascinating story about organization, sacred duty, and some seriously meticulous accounting. Okay, let's get into it.
So here's our roadmap. We're going to start at the top with the priestly inner circle, the core leadership. Then we'll meet their support team, the Levites, and see how a divine census organized them. After that, we'll dive into this really cool idea called the Great Substitution. And we'll wrap it all up by seeing how they balance the holy books, right down to the last coin.
All right, let's kick things off with the most basic question this whole chapter is trying to answer. You're building a brand new nation, and it's all centered around this holy sanctuary. So, who gets to lead the rituals? Who's allowed to get close to the divine on behalf of everyone else? And this isn't just about who gets to be in charge. This is literally a matter of life and death. Any organization, I don't care what it is, needs a leadership team. And the tabernacle was absolutely no different. The system we see being set up here is super clear, it's hierarchical, and it's all based on family lineage. So who gets the top job? The sons of Aaron. The text lays out 4 of them for us: Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. These are the guys. They were anointed, consecrated. Basically, they were officially ordained to be the priests. They're the executive team running the whole show. But right out of the gate, the story hits us with this really serious cautionary tale. We're immediately reminded that the 2 oldest sons, Nadab and Abihu, well, they died. And why? Because they offered strange fire, which basically means they went off script with the rituals. This sets the stakes incredibly high from the very beginning. This job is holy for sure, but it is also incredibly dangerous. The rules are not suggestions. Okay, so with the 2 older brothers gone, that only leaves 2 priests left, Eleazar and Ithamar. And it's pretty obvious they can't run this massive national sanctuary all by themselves. So what's the next logical problem you have to solve? Who's going to be their support staff? Who's going to do all the heavy lifting? And the answer is the Levites. The text sets aside the entire tribe of Levi for this very purpose. Now, they aren't priests, but they are the divinely appointed assistants. Their whole job is to serve the priests and take care of the tabernacle. And you gotta understand, this wasn't like signing up for a volunteer shift. The language in the text is absolute. This quote from verse 9 says, "The Levites are wholly given to Aaron and his sons." This is a divine assignment. It's basically a draft, setting this whole tribe apart from everybody else in Israel for a unique, lifelong job. So once you have the roles defined, the next logical step is getting organized. And this is where that census comes in. But again, don't think of this as just counting heads. This is about creating a super detailed organizational chart for the entire sanctuary workforce, assigning everybody's specific roles and responsibilities. So the count begins. First up, the clan of Gershon, 7,500 men. Then you have the largest of the clans, the Kohathites, clocking in at 8,600. And rounding out the group, we have the Merarites, with a count of 6,200. And when Moses and Aaron add it all up, the grand total given in the text is 22,000. Now hold on. If you were just doing the math in your head, you might have noticed those first 3 numbers actually add up to 22,300. Good catch. Scholars have some theories about that, but for the purpose of the big holy exchange we're about to see, the official number that gets used is this 22,000. That's the official size of the sacred workforce. And the level of detail here goes way beyond just a head count. Look at this. Each clan has its own designated leader. They have a specific spot to camp around the tabernacle, and their duties are incredibly specific. The Gershonites, they handle all the fabrics, the tent, the coverings. The Kohathites, they're in charge of the most sacred furniture, like the Ark of the Covenant and the altars. And the Merarites are the construction crew, responsible for the heavy framework, the boards, the bars, the pillars. It's a perfectly organized system where everyone knows their job. But all of this amazing, meticulous organization, it's all building towards something even bigger, something more profound. The whole reason why the Levites were chosen in the first place reveals this really fascinating theological idea, a one-for-one, holy exchange.
So here's the foundational idea, laid out right here in verse 13. God declares a claim on every single firstborn male in Israel. And this goes all the way back to the Exodus from Egypt. What this means is that every family in Israel essentially owes their firstborn son to divine service. It's a sacred debt.
So if that's the debt, you have to figure out how big it is, right? So they do a second census. This time, they're not counting Levites, they're counting all the firstborn males in all the other 11 tribes of Israel. And what's the total? 22,273.
Okay, so here it is, the holy transaction. On one side, you have the debt, 22,273 firstborn males. On the other side, you have the payment, 22,000 Levites. So instead of every single family having to give up their son, this one entire tribe stands in as a substitute for them. But I think you see the problem, right? The books don't balance. And that brings us to our last section. How do you balance the divine books? Because in a system this detailed, this meticulous, you can't just ignore a discrepancy. Every single soul has to be accounted for. So this is the big question raised by the numbers. Israel came up with 22,000 Levites to cover a debt of 22,273 firstborn. That leaves 273 firstborn boys who aren't covered by a substitute. They are still, technically, owed to divine service. So, what happens to them? The solution is actually surprisingly practical. It's a monetary payment. A system is set up to redeem or, buy back these extra 273 firstborns from their obligation. Each one is assigned a set price, 5 shekels of silver. That money is then collected up and handed over to the priests, to Aaron and his sons. And the math is pretty straightforward. You've got 273 individuals at 5 shekels a pop, which brings you to a final redemption price of 1,365 shekels of silver. And with that payment, the books are officially balanced, the account is settled, every firstborn is now accounted for, one way or another, either through a Levite substitute or through the silver redemption.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? I mean, we've seen a clear leadership structure, a crazy detailed org chart, and an accounting system so precise it tracks every single person. This wasn't just ancient bureaucracy. It was a powerful message. It suggests that for this new society being built, things like order, individual worth, justice, and fulfilling your responsibilities, these weren't just nice ideas. They were woven right into the sacred fabric of the community. Every single person counted.